Hey guys, I'm back with another video. Feels like it's been a while. This video is going to be about the Knife Pivot Lube KPL. And this stuff here is one of the newer products that's been brought to market over the past month and a half. I've been kind of testing it out for 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks or so on these two knives, and I just applied some to this knife this morning. So I'll get into some things, and then I'll give you kind of my final opinion on KPL as a standalone product. So as you can see here, I've got several different lubricants, so I've used my fair share of different things, and I'll roll them in front of the camera as I just continue to talk. Don't necessarily use this one on knives, but figured I'd show it anyway. The KPL is a little bit cheaper than its direct competitor, or what the knife community has made its direct competitor, which is the Nano Oil. One bottle of Nano Oil is, KPL is roughly, I think, $8 or $9, and I think 2 bottles is about $18 or so, roughly. So if you're familiar, these half-ounce bottles are in the $20 range alone. So you basically can get 2 of these bottles for the price of less than 1 of these bottles. Now, what do I think about KPL? Let me tell you what my experience has been. Like I said, I've used KPL on these 3 knives. This knife here is the Spyderco Shaman. It didn't have anything put on it besides factory, whatever they used from the factory. I didn't take that out. I didn't take it apart. I just added some of the KPL to this knife. It doesn't drop free, but it is hydraulically smooth. That's pretty much how it was from the factory. If you're familiar with Shamans, then you know that they're just pretty much like that. The one thing I noticed, this was the first knife I applied the KPL to, the one thing I noticed immediately is, even though the KPL is 17 weight, or reportedly 17 weight, the oil really penetrated like a much thinner oil, even thinner than I would say my 10 weight Nano Oil. I would say it's more along the lines of a Tough Glide. So that's my experience with this knife here. This knife I actually took apart, cleaned it off using the Aegis Knife Care Solutions, and reapplied with the KPL. On this knife, what I noticed was, and I think you can see here on the G10, you can see how it's a little bit greasy. On the blade, I believe you can see it's a little bit greasy towards the base. Maybe not so much on that side. Again, it penetrated very well, but it ran a little bit, so a little bit of KPL goes a long way. This knife dropped clothes before, it drops clothes now. It feels very smooth. The difference that I'll say is that when I put this knife back together, I purposely tightened this pivot down a little bit more, and the pivot was able to be tightened down more and get the same action that I had with the Nano Oil. So the KPL helped me get the same action, but with the pivot being tighter. So that is the difference that I noticed there. This knife, I did a video on my Instagram page today, and I'll leave a link down below if you're not familiar with my Instagram. This knife has had Nano Oil in it for roughly 6 to 8 months. It was drop close before. It is drop close now. You can shake it shut. It's pretty much like it was before. I didn't really notice a difference in applying the KPL, fresh application of KPL, and the 6 to 8 month old Nano Oil. Overall, honestly, that's pretty consistent with what I've seen over the past 3 or 4 weeks with all of the knives. Not that KPL is not a good product, but I don't really notice anything that stands out to me as far as performance. From the 10 weight Nano Oil to the KPL. I would say that these two products, in the 3 to 4 weeks that I've used them on these 3 different knives in a few different ways, these two products are fairly comparable. The one difference that I noticed right away is, like I said, this penetrates a bit more quickly. It seeps out a little bit more. Now admittedly so, I do use a little bit too much lube at times, but This one ran a little bit more for me, so you really can kind of conserve on your oil, and be mindful that a little bit goes a long way and this stuff will run out on you. This also smells a little bit like cinnamon bubblegum. Nano Oil doesn't have any smell. This cinnamon smell does go away after, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 days. So just a few differences between the two. I do think that the consistency, like I said, it's reported that this is 10 weight, or I'm sorry, 17 weight, but I will show you. Here's a drop of KPL. Here's a drop of 10 weight Nano Oil. Let's add a little bit more to make it fair. There's a drop of 10 weight Nano Oil. Here's a drop of 85 weight Nano Oil. And if I can, I know one of the other more popular brands is the Tough Glide from Century. So let's see if we can get a single droplet of that. And that was a little bit more, but you can see here with the KPL on the left, the 10 weight Nano Oil in the middle, the 85 on the right, and then the Century Tough Glide all the way to the right. And actually these two are very different, so I do apologize for that. But you can see it's pretty similar with the 10 weight. Runs a little bit more than the 10 weight, but not too much more. Now, the one thing that I will say, if getting to my final point now, the one thing that I would add about this lube is I think that it is a great general lube for the pivot and etc. However, I do think that there are times, and if you don't know or you're not familiar, lubing your detent track does make more of a difference than you think. So the one thing I will say is, lubing the detent track, I probably would not want to use this oil right here because it's a little bit too thin. It doesn't stay in place. So I'm going to reach for my 85 weight Nano Oil. Now, with that being said, this stuff has just hit the market. Apparently, the gentleman, he's been working on this, I don't know, at his home, at his shop, wherever, and he has kind of come up with a recipe that he liked, and he wanted to release it to the market for us to enjoy. So this is the first product from him. Who's to say he won't come out with different weights? That would be a suggestion of mine. That would be something I would throw out there, because I don't think that this is gonna apply everywhere you would necessarily like to apply oil. Sometimes you want something a little bit thicker. Again, that's getting kind of nitpicky. I know some guys would say, I just use WD-40 and I don't know why you guys need all this other oil anyway. So your mileage may vary, but if you're asking me, if you're asking a guy that obviously uses a specific knife lube on knives, and I like my knives to be pretty smooth, I would say that I would like to see a thicker weight of this oil here. Some people have commented on the bottle itself. This bottle does differ, as you can see. It kind of rattles and everything, but that's because this is more like a prescription medication bottle. You push down and turn, and that really allows the cap to stay put. And I guess if you have children, they won't be able to get into your materials. This applicator is a little bit thicker, so it does apply a little bit more of the product because the product itself is a little bit thinner. Again, it's reportedly 17 weight. I don't know. That's really about it. So overall, I think it's a good product. I think that if you already have Nano Oil, if you already have the 10 weight, use it. You don't have to necessarily run out and buy this. Buy it when you run out. Replace this. This could be a good stand-in for your 10 weight. But I think that if you're a guy that likes to use oils in a variety of manners, you're still going to want something a little bit thicker like this 85 weight Nano Oil. So I hope that was beneficial to you all. Love to hear what you guys think down in the comments. I would love to hear you all's experiences with the product. Thanks for watching. Remember, a lazy man carries a dull knife.